Yo, what is up guys? HalluNasty here, and I'm joined again by Matthew, and today we're bringing you the Season 8, Week 4 of NPL Majors.
All right, thanks, Hallu. So it's good to be back. How's it going, guys? We're doing things a little bit different this week. We wanted to kind of work more closely together in structuring our power rankings. So instead of having two essentially redundant lists with kind of overlapping content, we kind of agreed upon one universal power rankings that we both reference. We did this because we really wanted to create a much more concise and much more in-depth video for your enjoyment. So I really hope you guys like this. We decided that I would do a brief analysis of the week itself, try to break down what we saw, why we saw it, and then Hallu is going to follow up after me to kind of relate that to the road so far for that person, kind of how this game affects their likelihood of playoffs, any improvements we've seen along the way, and we'll see this kind of related back to their performance across kind of the entire season.
Right, so we're just going to dive right into it. At number 16, we had Danicki. But Danicki dropped after this week, so now we have Togavor, or aka Chris, joining. So definitely excited to see what he does with the team. Yeah, we're not going to talk much about Danicki because he dropped. We're going to head right into number 15, Cheese Boy.
All right, so Cheese brought some pretty cool stuff. Banded Volcanion was certainly an interesting bring, not something I've really seen before, and it really did a lot more than I think anyone kind of could have hoped for it to have done this game. Got a lot of kind of 50-50s right this game, and I'm assuming that they were plays, not just him clicking buttons. The high jump cake play was big, the HP fire play was big, and yeah, he reaped the rewards of those plays. So Cheese is sitting at a 1-3 record right here, so this is going to be his first win.
Yeah, so Cheese definitely has not had the best season so far. Right now, as I said, he's 1-3. His only win against Danicki. It's not that impressive. I'm not going to put him as a playoff team because of this win, but he has not had the easiest schedule so far. Playing Rob, Maddie, and Adam, all 3 losses. So Cheese definitely looked better this game. I'm actually expecting him to play better and probably avoid relegation this season. Yeah, again, I don't have him bouncing back and making playoffs, but we are seeing increase in play. I think he's just been struggling. I think he'll get a hold of his team better. You can definitely see the holes that I've talked about in his draft so far. The lack of hazard control seems to really be affecting him, but maybe with some transactions and more understanding of the holes in his team, I think he'll play better. I think he gets some wins and avoid relegation. So, number 14, we have Magic, aka David.
All right, so David here. The prep this week, it felt very cute, but overall I think very ineffective. I think my rule of thumb is I always like bringing interesting stuff, and I always love watching that kind of stuff, but I think you should never substitute effectiveness for interestingness, I guess. He brought Scarf Cresselia to trick the Sylveon, I guess. Maybe outspeed the Gyarados, I guess. Interesting potential lure in that sense, but overall less than stellar. Turn 9, it was already down below 25% with Cobalion still at large in the back. Either way, we see that the set accomplished, I guess, what it wanted to in the sense that he did end up tricking the Sylveon, but it just wasn't enough value to really justify bringing the set for me, especially against something like the Cobalion, which we see David kind of struggled with against once he actually lost that Cresselia. Now, the really interesting thing here is that David ended up kind of giving away way too many Pokemon for free. So Dusknoir had no right getting that amount of kills that I ended up getting. And both the Cresselia and the Skarmory, they had potential to kind of offer some decent defensive synergy to kind of support the Comfy, and I feel like he just gave away both of them. So interestingly enough, I do think on that note that the Comfy had some real potential this game. I really do, but he just wasn't given the support it needed to stop the Victini, to stop the Cobalion. It had a chance, but Magic never identified that or supported that as a win condition, and this loss is kind of, if nothing else, it's a very big result of tunnel visioning. So Magic is sitting at a 1-3 record as well.
Right, and we have seen quite similar things from Magic all throughout the season. He had a big win over Gypsy, right? But still, we've seen so far now over 3 games, just 3 losses, that he's having trouble getting the offensive pressure he needs to really break through the teams, right? We saw he had a really hard time dealing with Rob's defensive core. We saw him having trouble to break these big losses because he just doesn't seem to be getting the offensive pressure to really overcome his opponent's team, apply the pressure, and pick up the netted KOs to break holes and then pick up more kills and win the game. So yeah, another person that I think might have to go into some transactions, try to get some better maybe breakers or something more that can just out-pressure his opponent in a way that like a Victini will from like that he had to face and etc. Yeah, so with that said, number 13, we have Moxie Infernape.
So Blake, I've got a lot of stuff that I kind of want to talk about right here. So we really see that Moxie had the tools on his team to prevent the Iapapa Berry Lax from really getting out of hand on paper. But these answers, on paper, they need sufficient play to be able to enable them as the answers that they are. His team structure was shaky at best, I guess you could say, and we really see this in action with how only a few kind of missed predictions was enough to lose them kind of all the momentum in the world, and as a result of that, lose the game. I feel the team he brought was really, really offensive, and on these kind of teams, if you can flourish in that environment, then more power to you for sure. To be honest, I much prefer watching offense in league matches. It's much funner, but when you commit yourself to that kind of offense, you have to be willing to make those plays that the play style requires of you in the league format. And we've seen several times that Moxie can build a solid offense team. I've never really looked at a team Moxie made and said, well, this looks bad, but he really struggles to follow through with the plays themselves. All it takes is one or two moves to put Moxie on the back foot. And really, that's all it took this game, and that's all it taken in previous games that he's played. The teams Moxie builds, while I don't really have issue with them, like I said, on a structural level, you can see that they all really struggle to get back into the game. Like, here's the thing, okay? Luring the T-Tar with a Bomb Snow, I think that was fantastic. Hell, let me just say, I think the Bomb Snow period was fantastic right here. I loved it. And it pains me to see a Bomb Snow this close to getting crazy value. All Moxie needed this game, all he needed was a Bomb Snow plus sacks for him to be able to actually switch up moves. And then obviously for him to be able to actually predict correctly when he goes for those attacks. Maybe if he hadn't lost Whimsicott when he'd have had the kind of pivots to make it work, to switch up the moves. But really, he let the Snorlax get out of hand, and that ended up biting the ass. So he's going to end here on a 1-3 record as well.
Right, and we've seen quite a variety of play from Moxie, whether we've talking about his offense. We've seen his offense really be able to close out teams. We've seen him be able to come back against Merck. He didn't win that game, but still, he was definitely on the offense of that game. He was in a position to win the game. The focus miss happened. We see him close out the game against Grego by doing a lot of hacks. But he's doing a good job one ahead of closing out the games. But we've seen now again against Ace what we saw today week in a way that when he became behind, like he took bad trades against Empoleon, against Ace, he really struggled to catch up. So Moxie definitely seems to be playing aggressive. I think he definitely needs to focus on more of identifying win con and not letting his win con slip in the early stages of the game and then just trying to grasp at straws. So that's what I have to say about Moxie. So at number 12, we have Raiz. So Raiz took over for Aberforth.
All right, so Raiz being the opponent of the person we just talked about. So as I kind of talked about, obviously the Snorlax ended up forcing a lot more kills than I was expecting against a team with Encore, Knockoff, and a pretty solid Steel type, all things considered. But his opponent basically fell behind. He got several plays wrong with the Snorlax specifically, and he was forced to commit way too many resources to remove that mon specifically. And after that, put simply, Raiz was just able to outlast his opponent. In order to win the game, as I mentioned, his opponent needed a Bomb Snow, sacks, and perfect predictions. Unfortunately for Raiz, he only ended up having to actually face one of the three of those things at the end of the day. So Raiz is also going to be sitting here with a 1-3 record for him.
Yeah, right. And it's hard to accurately place Raiz because he does have 3 losses on his schedule, but they are from Abe. We know Raiz was a finalist, though, for the last season. I definitely have a lot of faith in Raiz. There's definitely a lot of faith in Raiz. Definitely a good game from him. He made all the plays he needed to and closed out this game. So definitely keen play. I hope to see it again in the future. Yeah, we'll have more information on Raiz as the season goes on. So number 11, we have Mr. Merckrow.
All right, so Mr. Merckrow, I guess if you had to ask me at the very beginning of the season where I thought I would be placing Merck on the list, I definitely wouldn't be expecting I put him at 11. So this game in particular, we had a little bit of bad luck right here. So I think Merck played well overall. I'll say it once again, I've said it before, but we're visibly seeing the effect of hazards on his team. Merck seems determined to stray away from Defog Zapdos, last week bringing a substitute set, which was very cool. This week bringing a Choice Scarf set. And he also seems determined to let his Heatran go down every game to very, very big hits, taking very big damage on that very early. That being said, he put himself in a position to try to win the game several times. Once with the Tapu Lele, he got the Calm Mind, and then he got a crit special defense drop. Once with the Venusaur, he got crit through a couple of curses. It seemed like the game just really didn't want Merck to win this week. Really unfortunate on how things turned out, but I guess that is the game we play. So Merck is going to be the first person here on our list with a 2-2 record.
Right, and the reason why we have Merck so low compared to the other 2-2 people is because most of his games have been close, but he hasn't really played the top of our power rankings yet, right? He hasn't played a Gypsy, he hasn't played a Rob, he hasn't played a Greg yet. So that being said, with his games being so close, there's been hacks. He's been the benefactor of hacks. He's been on the other side of hacks. He's really just not winning convincingly. He's not really using his team offensively well enough to really justify him being higher on this list. So, as stated, his aggressive plays have been really linear in the sense that they're like the same each week. Very aggressive play with Heatran, with your Zapdos set. Lele's typically been some kind of wall breaker. So I think once teams start picking up this, they'll be able to punish. So I definitely want to see him change up his play, change something up, and get a big win against Rob next week to really prove that he is top in this league. So with that being said, at number 10, we have Adam the Bee's Knees.
All right, so Adam, losses to the unique teams that Trev always brings, I feel they would leave a sour taste in anyone's mouth, I think. And I think Adam felt fairly confident going to this game. A few gripes I do have here. The first one being with the Klefki. Screens overall really only facilitated one Mon in really doing very much, I guess that being the Superior. So I really felt like it was a waste of time through most of this game setting up the screens. I would have really liked to see him try to prioritize spikes instead of that, or even status moves if you really wanted to help wear down a lot more things. You've got to think that dual screens really congests the key set, and when you're basically committing half your moveset plus an item, and then after that, obviously, we know that he was rocking the Magnet Rise, so if he really gives the versatility that he could have had on that Mon to basically a single move, and if you wanted an attack, good luck for that. So the prep was all right, I think, but I think, well, like I said, I think he was confident enough going into this game, but I do think that he underestimated certain things. I think the Starmie was a pretty big threat, even though we didn't really see it. But his double grounds were a pretty big issue, and we didn't really see the Mesprit used in an effective enough way to really discourage ground types from getting an insane amount of value. If I was to pinpoint my main problem here, I think Adam, and like this is a big thing, putting aside all the other things I said about Mesprit, all the other things I said about double ground, I think Adam was too hesitant to pull the trigger this game. Superior had some real potential this game. Even Blacephalon had some real potential this game. But based on how conservatively and risk-less, I guess I'd say, that he played these Pokemon, he seemed very hesitant to really commit with either one of them. And I just felt like he really missed some big opportunities. And like I said, missed these opportunities, just pull the trigger. And I think that ended up to a 2-2 record as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The key point here is pulling the trigger. So we've seen in the past, right, he's been playing really, really safe. Against Cheese, he decided to play with the Dragonite Tapu Bulu shenanigans instead of just going hard Superior. Against Merck, he was playing really safe. He really didn't make that many risky plays. And we see here in this game against Trev, the fact that he played safe. He's not been using his Superior aggressive all game. This is now like the second or third example where we see the fact that he is using Superior in the back end, almost like as a cleaner instead of as a breaker. So definitely would like him to see. I think this will be an eye opener for him, that he definitely needs to use. He needs to be way more aggressive, and really use the such good breakers that he has more offensively, more aggressively to open up holes in his opponent's team. Because when you have a serve against such a defensive team like that, you have to play it aggressively. And I think Trev knew this game, based on the way Adam has been playing in the past, that it just wasn't going to happen. So yeah. So Adam number 10, but at number 9, we have Maddie Brawlick.
All right, so Maddie brought a very similar looking team to the team he brought last week, rocking the Lapras again. But yeah, like I said, overall it was a very similar team. And overall, this was a very solid game, I would say. Going into it against Gypsy, he had to know that this was surely going to be a difficult game, and I see no shame in losing this game. He was actually looking to be in a comfortable enough position when he threw his hazards up, albeit still on the back foot. I obviously have to mention that as well. But we see him try to kind of claw some initiative back with the Nidoking, trying to catch the Mandibuzz after it got kind of knocked off. He kind of was really wanting to catch that Mandibuzz on the switch in. And I'm certainly glad to see that he's not afraid to take these risks. But a lot of risky plays that he went for this game ended up backfiring. And that was kind of all but the nail in the coffin. Again, I wouldn't say he played badly. I wouldn't say he prepped badly. But he certainly ended up going down this week. Again, no shame. It was a solid game, but it is going to put him at a 2-2 record as well.
Yeah, right. And the reason why I have Maddie block so low is similar with Merck. His only wins being over, I believe it is Abe and Danicky. If I'm reading this right. Whatever. Even if it's not, he really hasn't had the big convincing wins, right? He hasn't beaten we know he hasn't beaten a Gypsy, but I want to see him beat a Rob. I want to see him beat other people who have been really dominant so far in this season. Before I can really say that he's definitely top 3 in this format. He's going to finals, and he's going to be a tough threat. So I'm not saying he's bad by any means. I'm just saying we haven't seen him yet early on in this season really prove himself and his ability to use his current team, because that's going to play a big factor into it. His ability to use his current team, be a huge threat, and unstoppable. It's definitely something I want to see from Maddie. I want to see him pick up more games in a very decisive fashion and really get value out of his team that others couldn't. So number 8, we have Ace.
So Ace, what can I say about Ace right here? Some concerning things that I want to talk about this game. The chat went wild when his opponent brought Diancie in on the Empoleon, but honestly, Rocks going up on his side of the field was his own fault in that situation. The crit on Lottie sucked, because Lottie had some insanely good matchups this game, like insanely good matchups. After Lottie was weakened, it would have had an incredibly difficult time healing up on anything. And since Lottie was really the mon kind of keeping things in check, like the Healy list from just throwing off these massive Volt Switches, I'm not really convinced that taking the hit in the first place was the right play. I think he was either too confident in Ice Beam's damage, which I think was a little bit of a mistake in that sense anyways, or he was just uncomfortable kind of switching around on a Swords Dance Glycer, which, to be fair, I could respect that. No one really likes to screw around with a Swords Dance Glycer, especially once it's at +2. But once Lottie went down, Ace never really had the chance to kind of regain any footing, and for that reason, he's also going to be here down at a 2-2 record.
Yeah, right. So Ace has been really hit or miss so far this season. For 2-week record, he beat Trev and Moxie Infernape, but lost a close one to Gypsy, and then now just lost again to Verd. And while Gypsy and Verd have definitely been playing good, at least this week, Gypsy all season long, it's tough to say he's doing better to the middle of the pack because of the way he's been so inconsistent. He really punishes opponents when they give him free turns, like he did it with Empoleon against Trev and Moxie, but it seems like he's having a hard time creating free turns for himself, meaning like he's not forcing the opponent to make a play that he's going to definitely gain an advantage off of. It almost seems like his play is reactionary, so I definitely want to see him play more aggressive. I want to see him create the holes in his opponent's team himself. I want to see him overwhelm his opponent, force his opponent into certain moves and situations where he could definitely come out on top of and slowly build advantage throughout the entire game. So yeah, so definitely what I want to see from Ace. Number 7, we have Verd.
So, I'll be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of Vern at the beginning of the season, but I'm actually really starting to like what I see out of him around this time. I really am. So, we just talked about his opponent, so let's talk about Vern. As I mentioned, Lottie was super hard for him to deal with. I mean, that's not a misprep, that's just facts. I was actually really impressed with the Gliscor set. Coming in on the Toxic, let him bluff the Toxic Orb, and it was just such a cool thing to be able to spectate. It really, really was. Verd other than that, Verd kept up a ton of momentum this game, clicking U-turn with Talonflame when it mattered, and of course Helios was pretty crucial in that sense as well, keeping momentum, keeping the ball rolling. The Gliscor really paved the way for these mons that game. Like I mentioned, once Lottie went down that game, was just incredibly smooth sailing for Vern. Like, obviously, it went smoothly because he went for the right moves on the right turns. I think this is going to sound really weird saying out loud, but it was almost relaxing to watch after this point, just based on how fluid the game was, how fluid the turns were at that point. So I really liked the game. I really like what I'm seeing out of Vern, and he's sitting at a 2-2 record right now.
Yeah, we definitely saw Verd have a shaky start in the beginning of the season, losing to Gypsy and then losing to Greg right after. Two definitely good opponents, but we see him begin to claw his way back. It's definitely a nice win against Ace. And we see, I don't know how big this is, but I'm going to make it sound super big. The fact that he picked up Talonflame, just because I really like Talonflame, I'll make it bigger deal than it is. But yeah, we've seen him make transactions to his team. We've seen him feel way more comfortable with his team. His prep's been really good as of late. We definitely see the major improvements from the first 2 weeks. Going into the season, if you would have asked top 5 in the format, I know quite a few people definitely would have put Verd at the number 4, number 5 slot. And it's exciting seeing him play the way he is, because now he's starting to prove it, and starting to play well, that he's definitely a good player, definitely a threat. Compete. And with the team he has now after the transactions he made, if he went back and played Gypsy and went back and played Greg's, I'm not certain the results would be the same. So definitely glad to see the Vern improve. Really fun to watch. So, but that said, at number 6 we have Trev.
So Trev right here, I'm always really intrigued when I watch a replay where Trev comes out winning. I think when he comes out losing, he loses big, but he wins convincingly enough. Like, if it's a replay where he lost, I find that it's really not that interesting to watch. I'm not very... But when I watch a game where he does win, everything fits together, and you really kind of see the method to his madness in these teams. So like I said, I was actually pretty surprised this week. His team prep was pretty much on point. One small thing that I about the team is that people don't hesitate to bring Taunt as their premier Reuniclus answer when they go against Trev. We've seen this several times now, and surprisingly enough, we've seen it work pretty much every single time. Honestly, his Reuniclus set has become too predictable at this point. I'd really like to see him shake things up a little bit, maybe try something like Specs, maybe even some kind of switcheroo lure set, so that people don't feel comfortable just bringing Taunt and saying, okay, that's all I need for Reuniclus. If Trev really wants to succeed, he's really got to be willing to break this mold that he's made for himself. That being said, we see that Trev is certainly capable of building with what he has drafted, which is definitely very, very interesting stuff to watch. And while they may not always work as intended, we can certainly see that, like I said, there is certainly some logic behind it. So Trev is going to be our last person with a 2-2 lead on our list right here.
Right, and as I said, there is definitely, you can see the method of the Trev's madness. In the beginning, it looked rocky, right? He had a rough loss against Ace. He had a rough loss against Stanza. A pretty controversial win against Maddie. We really don't, but still pretty decisive. But so far, what we've seen from him is gimmicks, and either his gimmicks works or his gimmicks don't. But this is the first game we've really seen that he actually controlled the game. And that was very exciting to watch. I'm very excited to see that his plays have been improving, where he now understands like the limits of his team, almost, I would say. The limits of his team to be able to get the most value out of them, to fulfill the roles, the niches they want to, he needs them to, and control the pace of the game, and the momentum of the game, and the pressure of the game, and just overall control the game. So definitely looking forward to him using his team well, controlling the game. Even if you got to use gimmicks to do it, if gimmicks get the job done, you control the game, you pick up a win, that's all that matters. So number 5, we have Aster.
So with Aster, I mean, he had a good early game. He kept up a lot of pressure, but here's the thing. He lost his footing when he started facing things that started to set up. And I guess when you see like a Lomomola, Heatran, Venusaur, Zapdos, you kind of tunnel vision on the defensive aspect. And you start to kind of loosen up against the kind of offensive aspect. And I guess that's what happened right here. And I mean, obviously he came out with the win right here, but he got some pretty key RNG at some pretty key moments. But like I said, he seemed very visibly shaken when it came to things starting to set up. He seemed like he kind of struggled. He was like, oh shit, what's happening? But he did pull through at the end of the day, and he's sitting at a 3-1 lead right now, which is really good.
Yeah, definitely started off the season well. Came 2-1 came into this game. I think this win, as controversial it was, is going to definitely help Aster get some footing into his position and seeding and all whatnot. So far, I would have to say the memes about Aster and that his teams are just a bit weird are true. In my opinion, I think his teams are weirder than Trev's, even though they're more standard. The style that he plays them, I feel like, are just really weird and unique. It's not a bad thing, definitely unique. So we've seen this style, it's been working for the most part so far, except against Greg. But Greg's been having a fantastic season. So definitely interesting to see how this style works for him, how he continues to refine the style throughout the season, and what he can do with this team. Because in the beginning, I said his team was sleeper OP. He's proving to get a lot of value out of it. I hope he just doesn't bring weird things like Rock Slide, Como O again against the Tapu Lele, and starts bringing things like the Poison Jab. Because once he starts doing that, I think he's really going to have the tools to be able to punish his opponents. Because right now, he seems similar to Ace in the fact that he's playing a bit reactionary, but he definitely seems to keep his win cons in the back of his mind. So yeah, excited to see how his season turns out. With that said, at number 4, we have Crobat for the win.
Crobat for the win. Honestly, the prep this week was fantastic. I really love the teams that Crobat makes. I really do. They're really cool. They're really fun to see in action. On that note, Dusknoir is one of those Pokemon that players tend to ignore in the prep phases, and we see it completely denied at Mega Kangaskhan. I think this is the first offensive Kangaskhan set, if I'm remembering correctly, that we've seen this season. The only set that would have been an issue would have been something like Power Up Punch with Scrappy before Mega Evolving, and then you subbed to block the Wisp, and then you crunched to kill the Dusknoir. But then if you include Stab, then what do you even do with Cobalion at that point? So yeah, fun stuff there. Baton Pass on the Sylveon for the Skarmory switch-in is a great utility, and it's a utility that not enough players take advantage of. That's a really good resource, I feel. And like I said, people just don't use it enough. Victini, that was a fantastic nuke versus his team as well. The only Pokemon really able to, I guess, take advantage of those V-Crate drops the turn after was something like Terrakion. And between Dusknoir, I can't believe I'm giving so much kind of coverage to the damn Dusknoir, but between Dusknoir and Chople Cobalion, he definitely gave that mon the respect that it needed. Overall, like I said, love the prep. I wouldn't necessarily call this a difficult game for him, but at the very least, we for sure can see that he knows how to build. So Crobat is going to be sitting with a 3-1 lead as well.
Yeah, definitely. So far, this has definitely been a solid season from Dancer. So far, what we have been seeing is the fact that he has been able to use Victini and Tornadus T to really outpressure his opponents. He's been playing through them really well. He's been controlling the game. And no surprise, when you control the game, the entire game, you're going to win the game. So definitely a really good control style coming out from him that's really been able to punish opponents. So far, the only flaw that we've seen from him is when he can't break his opponents and really place him into a tough situation. We saw that against Rob. Rob was able to deal with his offense, and that left him in a bad spot. But he's been prepping well. He didn't bring Lando week. He's showing he's not relying on it, but he's showing that he is able to control the game with his offensive breakers. And when he does that, he's really looking unstoppable. So another person I'm really excited to see play. I hope he continues to control the games the way he has been, because it really is impressive. So with that being said, at number 3, we do have Rob.
Rob, I mean, what can I really say right here? I mean, it's pretty easy to say, out loud that he, I guess, under-prepped for Toxicroak or didn't play around Toxicroak enough. But, let's be honest. I think that endgame took a lot of people by surprise. Assault Vest Slowbro could have prevented this, I guess. I don't really like the berry prep on the Gyarados. I really don't. I get that he wanted that extra sustain. I really do. I'm a huge fan of sustain. I'm a huge advocator of sustain, considering how well it matched up, against Greg's team defensively. But when you're facing against a Scizor, and to a lesser extent, Landorus, you have to assume that that berry is either going to be knocked off or stolen via Bug Bite. The latter being a pretty big thing to let someone to give someone a free 50%. Those might really be kind of my main gripes with his prep, because overall, I think his prep really was pretty solid. He even had, Chople Driller just in case, but he ended up losing the drill basically as a direct result of the berry on his Gyarados. Overall, like, I don't want to sound overly critical because I don't think he played particularly, I guess, quotation marks here, bad, or prep particularly bad, but given how big his lead was in the early game, I can't help feeling that with a little bit more foresight, this ending could have been avoided. But that being said, this is going to be his first loss and put him at a 3-1 record as well.
Yeah, definitely a struggle from Rob. But so far, what we've seen from him all game long, or not all season long, and even in the beginning of this game, the fact that he's been another player who's able to control the pace and pick up wins because of it. He's been using his defensive core really well. Here, he was using it really well. Unfortunately, he let a breaker go through that he didn't really prep that well for, being the nasty pot Toxic Croak. Very unpredictable. I'm not gonna fault him for it. Definitely great prep by Greg. But yeah, the way he's been playing the games has been fantastic, even in this game. So I hope to see him continue control the pace of the games, win the games, just pressure his opponents defensively, which is something unique that not many people have been doing, barring Gypsy, is out pressuring his opponents defensively. So another great player, another player who's been using his team fantastic. I hope he bounces back from this loss because it was definitely just an unfortunate loss, but not much else can be said about that. He's been having a great season. But with that being said, now we have the flip side of the matchup. Number 2, we have Greg.
Oh, good gravy. Was this a game to see? So the game was, it was looking bleak for Greg. Turn 12, we're looking at a 6-3 lead for his opponent, TCG. But his opponent's sets turn around and I could bite him. You see what I did right there. As the kind of the stolen berry from the Gyarados actually put him out of range of the next attack. But the big thing to talk about here was the end game, because this end game gets the MatthewKite seal of approval. It was a joy to watch this end game. Greg essentially set himself up perfectly for this end game. And like I said, it's a joy to watch people synergize their resources, especially limited resources, as well as they were in this game. So let me break it down. Turn 18, playing into a 5-3 deficit, Greg had already won the game. From right there, there was nothing his opponent could do. Gyarados died to rocks, which meant there was no Intimidate coming out. Excadrill was dead, which meant there was no Bullet Punch resistances. If he switched out Gyarados, Greg won with Scizor right there. If he stayed in, he won with Toxic Croak. It was a win-win situation, hands down. And he was able to secure that position from what was looking to be a devastating early game. His opponent couldn't even pivot into the Memento with something like Slowbro because the hazards completely negated the Regenerator. Easily the best game of the week, at least from a spectator standpoint, but oh my god, that was a beautiful game to watch. So Greg coming in here with a 3-1 lead as well, very strong.
Yeah, definitely. We saw Greg struggle in week 1. There was a lot of hacks, so hard to say, a lot of hacks, so definitely hard to say how he would have done. But since then, Greg's game has really been amazing. We saw week 2, he set up a great Gardevoir, Choice Scarf Gardevoir sweep. We saw week 3, he set up a great Scizor sweep. Now week 4, he set up this art form of the Toxic Croak sweep. So definitely really clean play by Greg. He's definitely been excited to watch. He's been my personal favorite to watch just because of how unexpected and cool his sweeps have been. So definitely has shown a real talent of him to be able to set up sweeps and really identify and execute. Important here, his win cons. So I hope to see some more crazy win cons in the future. I hope to see him pull up some more unexpected sweeps. Definitely fun to watch. Playing really good, having a really good season so far. I can't imagine him being easy to prep for with the way he's just been pulling out all this tech, sweeping at any given moment, at any given opportunity. So definitely really clean prep. With that being said, at number 1, we have Gypsy.
So Gypsy is a very strong player, a very fun player to watch, very interesting player when you kind of get in depth with the teams that he builds, stuff like that, but a very strong player, to put it quite simply. So talk about this game right here. Gypsy, he's a pretty big fan of offensive guard chop, and it seems like very much kind of like Kieran Black has been in the past. It seems like Gypsy is able to pretty easily guarantee a free kill every week with that Pokemon. Really fun stuff. We actually see Baby Mandibuzz beating the Queen this week by knocking off that Life Orb, and in this battle, we end up seeing Big Boy Mandibuzz beating the King in exactly the same way. So kind of funny stuff kind of referencing to the other battle as well. As always, Gypsy played very comfortably with what he drafted, which is always a good thing. He did a great job at keeping up momentum this game. Never really felt like he was on the back foot. Hell, he never really felt like he flinched at all this game. Well played, well prepped. He definitely got the value he wanted out of the team he brought. So he's going to be our top seed right here with a 3-1. Nobody is undefeated. But yeah, 3-1 record.
Right, so Gypsy's definitely been having a great season as everybody expected. Just clean wins. I talked about, when I was talking about Rob, he has a team that's really allowing him to create a lot of defensive pressure on his opponents. It's up to his opponents to try to break the team, and he's simply been playing fantastic and really not been letting that happen. So definitely clean play, definitely what to be expected from Gypsy. As I said, he definitely, I wouldn't even call him like stall. It seems like balance. He's being able to outpressure his opponents with a balanced team. We see the Garchomp, we see the Nihilego, we see other things come out, the Mega Medicham, and the pressure that he just exerts on his opponents, and the fact that he still doesn't like ever lose 50-50s is amazing, and it's just simply fantastic to watch. So yeah, Gypsy's having a great season. That's all 16 people. I hope you guys like our list. Comment, like, subscribe, I guess. Let us know.
Yeah.
Let us
I know everyone in the comments got upset last week that we had basically 2 lists that were exactly the same. So I hope you guys like this format. We put it down to 1 list so you guys can't complain about that.
Yeah, so definitely comment if you think anybody else should be moved around. Let us know. Yeah, but that's all we have. Season 8 Week 4 Power Rankings with HalluNasty and MatthewKite. Later, guys.
See you guys.